Hello friends, welcome to Cage Talk. My name is Robin Black. I am today interviewing some of the great legends in fighting to talk about Nick Diaz. Dark Side of the Cage airs on Vice, and this episode is unbelievable. So we're digging a little bit deeper, looking a little behind the scenes, so when you watch Dark Side of the Cage, you'll have some more information. We're gonna talk to some legends, but before we do, take a look at the trailer for Dark Side of the Cage, Nick Diaz.
Welcome to the Nick Diaz Show and your host, Nick Diaz.
Nobody can fight like Nick. Daring you to come at him.
The most durable, mentally tough.
I'm sitting on a gurney in the hospital, turn around and
Pow!
He did it his way, whether people liked it or not.
Nick smoked marijuana the week of the fight.
They cut me.
5 years suspension.
They took his livelihood away.
It was rough, but I'll tell you right now, I'm only going out one way.
Dark Side of the Cage. New episode Wednesday at 10 on Vice.
George, thank you for always being so generous and giving me your time. You're a very good friend, and I really, really appreciate it, man.
Bro, it's my pleasure. Always fun talking to you, Robin, man. I love it.
Will I be seeing you at Karate Combat in the near future? Have you got any of them booked?
It's to be confirmed in my agenda. It's my agent that deal with all that stuff, and I'm very busy with other things, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I would love to come back. I think I'm waiting for the confirmation.
Nice. Yeah, it's always fun working with you there. Thank you for sitting down with me and talking about Nick Diaz. Nick is a fascinating guy, and I was able to get him and sit down with him for hours. And nobody has got Nick Diaz to sit down and chat for hours in a decade. And it was fascinating. For real, he just hasn't done it. So it was fascinating. But you giving insight into what it was like to fight him, it really adds a lot to the episode. So thank you for that.
No, but thank you, man. He's I haven't spent a lot of time with him. I mean, I've said hi very briefly to him. I would like to pick his brain and talk to him if one day I have a chance. We share a moment in our life together that it creates a bond. And from what I've heard, because we have a lot of friends in common, he's a very good guy, and it's just the nature of our sport made it in a way that we were adversary. But now that it's done, we can talk as human being, and I would be very interested to do so.
He's all over the place and he does his own thing. So, but if, with your permission, I'll give your phone number to him if you like.
I would love to. Yeah, of course.
Okay, I will do that. I don't know where he is. I mean, he's all over the place.
If I can somehow help him to make money in a way that we could do something together to promote something for the fans, and then everybody would be a winner, like him, me, the fans I'm sure would love to see us doing something together. I would be thrilled.
And I think he would love that too. Nick realizes that people care about him. He realizes that people admire him. But his life is your life is very organized and very structured, and his is very unstructured. But it'll mean a lot to him to hear that if you could help with business or things like that it'll mean a lot to him to hear that, I think.
Yeah, maybe an instructional videos that we put on together, like whatever. Could be like I'm just showing something out there. It would be cool, yeah.
You two and a gi playing, that would be really cool, really, really cool. So when you were getting ready to fight him, you didn't know him. You got ready to fight him twice, correct? One of them got canceled. Is that true?
Yeah. I was. I tear my ACL, if I remember correctly, and with no ACL you cannot fight. So it's actually, yeah, exactly. So I was doing my rehab, and like he was taunting me, saying that I was afraid. And it's normal, like to get people excited for the fight, to promoting it. And I get it. That's what it makes the fan excited, and it creates more hype. And, it was cool. Yeah.
You have a real, and you're learning all the time, no matter how much, where you are in the realm of mastery, you're always learning. So your understanding of how people use talk and provocation has grown and will still continue to grow as a strategist. But there have probably only been a few times in your life where people actually did get an emotional reaction from you. And I'm sure Nick Diaz is one of those people, right?
Yes and no in the same time. I think it's very important in combat sport to always keep a calm and strategic mind at all time, always focusing on the objective, not on the subjective. Because ultimately, if you focus on the wrong thing, on things that you do not have any sort of control, you're wasting a lot of your energy doing so and a lot of your time. For example, what people gonna think about me? What is he gonna do? Am I gonna win or lose? These are stuff that ultimately you do not have control. The things that you do have control in is the thing that you do, only yourself. How you feel, you as an entity does not exist. The only thing that matters is the objective, the things that needs to be done for you to slope the odds in your favor and give you the victory. And these things needs to be done at all costs. And these are the principles on which I'm going to battle with, and I always, try to keep a clear mind about it. And sometimes it's very hard because there's so many distractions and it's a very egotistic sport. You have a lot of pride into it, and it's hard to stay in a straight line while you have so many distractions that can make you deflect on one side or the other. And that, I think, was one of my biggest strengths, to be able to stay focused on the objective.
George, everything you just said about what is in our control and concentrating on that and working on that and trying to not worry about what is not in our control and staying focused and staying calm, all of that applies to most things in life, yes?
Absolutely. It's the same thing if you're going to negotiate a business deal, like business deal, or you're going to ask your boss for a raise. You have to focus on the things where you're strong, brings the strong point, in the conversation, not the things that he has an advantage over you. Same thing when you're going to ask a girl on a date. You need confidence and to bring your strong point. Showcase what you're good at, or that what makes you look good. And a big key also into all of this for success and performance, whether it is in sport or social or business, it's confidence. And confidence is the key. And the way you build it up is with practice, work. And not only work hard, work smart and practice. Put a lot of time in your preparation, and then you build up your confidence, because you can have all the skills in the world, and if you don't have confidence, and this an analogy that I use all the time, it's like someone who has a lot of money in his bank account but no way of accessing it. You need the skills, but you need also the confidence that comes with it, and this is very important.
When Conor McGregor became very successful, everybody started talking about confidence at that time. And of course, confidence is immaterial to him or any other individual person. But at that moment in fighting, people started to talk about confidence a lot. And you saw all these fighters start to behave like that. But confidence isn't something we act. Confidence is a consequence of work and preparation and skill development, yes?
It is, and that's where people got it wrong. Confidence is not about trying to bully your opponent or to talk loud. I'm a very confident person, and I was not like Conor. I was the polar opposite of Conor in a way that I never trash talk. And don't forget that confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is knowing that you have what you need in order to succeed. you're always going to have doubt and fear. But the importance is to have hope and faith in yourself, knowing that you have what you need to succeed, because you know you put in the work and the preparation into. There's no certainty in life. The universe is always in motion. You never know if you're gonna win or lose, fail or succeed 100%. It's impossible to predict that. But what you can do is to slope the odds all in your favor. Try to do the best you can to optimize your chance of success. And you talk about Connor. I briefly saw him this weekend. It was pretty cool to see him. I haven't seen him for a very long time. And I was in Washington in a party, and we had a great time. We just crossed paths, exchanged a few words. It was cool to see him. He looked very happy, and it was fun. I was very glad to see him in a good mood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when people accomplish great things in any field, and then they go on more difficult times, yeah, it's nice to see. And people face challenging things, good and bad. Sometimes it's their cause, sometimes, who knows. But it is good to see people, you know, in a good mood, like you said.
Yeah, he was in a good mood. He had an entire team with him with camera. Like I was just chilling, and he rushed like a storm, like boom, like I didn't. I heard a commotion, and then he came right in front of me. I was like, oh my God, because I met him a long time ago. The first time I met him in person it was when he had an ACL tear. So I went to the hospital. I happened to be in Los Angeles at that time, and he had his surgery done in Los Angeles. And so he was a up and comer at the time, and a young fighter with a lot of skills, and everybody was talking about him. And the lady who was doing the rehab on me and on him, Heather, asked me if it would be possible for me to go see him, and I went there to see him, and that's when the first time we connect together, and it was cool. Like we hang out a few days, and it was a good time.
Nice. Let's talk some more about Nick Diaz. You guys actually, as completely different as you obviously are, there's a lot of similarities between you. There really are. You were both bullied when you were young, which was an aspect of starting to pursue martial arts. You're both extremely driven workers when it comes to fighting and conditioning and those things. But I think maybe most similar of all is you both actually don't really like to fight. You like to train, you like to be martial artists, but you actually don't like fighting. Do you see these similarities? As different as you are, do you see these similarities?
Yeah, of course. I think we don't like to fight. I can't speak for him, but for me, maybe because it reminds me of certain things that I had to go through when I was young. It reminds me of the time that I was bullied, or also it's just because I like to train. I like my sport. I like the camaraderie I have with my training partners. The fact that it allows me to be fit and strong. It gave me the confidence that when I walk in a room, if something goes on, I can take care of business, even though nobody's faster than a bullet, but yeah. What I mean is, that's what I like about mixed martial art and my sport. I really love the science of the art of war, everything that has to do with combat. But I don't like to fight because for me, the not knowing if I will be badly hurt, humiliated, it's unbearable, and I'm scared, and there's no courage without fear. I shouldn't be afraid to admit that I'm afraid. And when you make peace with it, you can grow and get better. And I think maybe for Nick is it could be a similar experience and a similar way to describe it. I can't talk for him, but perhaps that's why we share something in common. And this thing is that we don't like to fight. We like to win. I'm sure he loves to win, but I'm sure that I hear him say it before. He doesn't like to fight, and I don't like to fight either. But to win, we need to fight. You need to go through that suffering in order to get what you want. And I did it because I was very gifted and I worked really hard. I was extremely lucky to have met incredible mentors that lead me to the right path and taught me great things. And I'm just that's I use it to buy my freedom. In a way, we're never 100% free. We always have responsibility, but I have more freedom now that I used to have when I was young, broke, and I had to basically work like crazy to earn a living.
Yeah. And now you travel around training martial arts, sometimes talking about things related to it, sometimes doing your own business that you built from it. Like this is a pretty great life, George.
Oh, I love it. I'm very lucky, Robin. I mean, I'm lucky because sometimes I don't know if I like. I know it's a cliche. You say, "Oh, do I really deserve it?" Like I feel sometimes, man. The stars were all aligned for me. Yes, I work really hard, and I think I work smart. It's always you can always do better, but I feel extremely lucky. And one thing that I do that helped me being happy is. And I don't want to sound like someone crazy, but before I go to bed at night, I always try to remind myself how lucky I am.
Yeah.
Before I close my eyes, I always remind myself what I need to do to get better in order to obtain what I want. And right after that, I remind myself how lucky I am and how thankful I am for what I have. And when I wake up in the morning, is the opposite. I wake up, I start by reminding myself how lucky I am to have what I have. And I fit the second thing because I starting the day to remind myself before I stand up and go and wake up and go through my day. I remind myself what I need to do today in order to get closer to my goal. So so before going to bed is I do one thing, and when I wake up I do the other thing in reverse. And that's why I try to do that every day. I don't do it every day, but I try to remind myself to do these things every day. And I think it's a little trick for people that sometimes they wonder if they're really happy, because things can always be better, of course. But sometimes when you do that in your head, you realize that things can be so much worse than they are right now. Yes, it can always be better. And you always need to work hard to drive, but it could always be worse. So you have to remind yourself this in order to stay happy.
It's true. We've chatted inadvertently about probably two real secrets to being happy. One is being grateful while also having goals. The other one is really paying attention to what is within your control and dismissing what is not in your control. And a third one of them is kind of being present. Like right here, right now, this is what we're doing. You're talking to me, I'm speaking with you, Chase is shooting, people are observing it, we're present. We don't want to live too much in the past or too much in the future. Having said that, you mentioned winning and how enjoyable it is. There's something about the memory of fighting that is a more meaningful memory than many, isn't there? A memory of winning in MSG or whatever. There's something about the memories of these moments that outweigh how hard they were to do, yes?
Yeah, and a big part of it, I believe, is because of the risk. Bigger the risk, greater is the reward. And we take so much risk. And not only we're risking our lives, because you can die out there. Maybe you're not going to die in the octagon, but maybe the damage that you will receive will make you die younger. So there's a lot of risk. It's very primal. You're on survival mode. And not only physically, but also mentally, because we all have a lot of pride. As a fighter, one of the things we have in common, we have a big ego. We have a lot of pride. And you need that if you want to be successful in combat sport, because it's so egotistic. But one thing you realize is that when you retire, this pride needs to fade out a little bit, because if you keep it, it might give you some issues in your everyday life. Being a fighter and having that crazy pride is important for performance. But to be a better person in life, sometimes I think you need to water it down a little bit. And that was one of the hardest things for me when I retired, trying to dissipate that ego, that pride that I carry. Because now you're talking to me in front of the camera. I know a lot of people are looking at me, so I try to look good. You only, when I'm in public, you only see my good side. But I'm a human being. Like I have a lot of pride, a lot of issue. You know, and I want to be right all the time. And you know, with people I care about when we have an argument. And this is something, especially I see that is very common among fighters. That freaking ego, that bad ego and pride that we all have. And once you retire, you need to make peace with it and try to let it go a little bit. You know, you still need it, but sometimes just like let it go. You know.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is one of those things. Yes, that's true for a fighter, and that's true in fighting, but it's true in life too. You know, it's a valuable thing in life, like so much of what we talked about today. Before I let you go, George, with gratitude, like I said, if I'm speaking with Nick again, and I do speak with him intermittently, I will pass him your number. Is there anything else you'd like me to tell him? Is there something else I could tell Nick Diaz from George Ste-Pierre?
Yeah, I mean, if I ever can do something for him or helping him, and for me, I don't want, and I'm not saying that to be nice, and like tell him, give him my number, call me in private, and what we talk, it's private. This is only between him and I, and you know, that's one thing I can say. And this with Nick, I'm not saying that for all the guy that I fought, because some of the guy I fought, even though I don't have problem, I wouldn't want, because we're different. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Certain people, you feel like you could connect. You have something that could be, how do you say, compatible. You know, but some guys, it's not that I don't like them. It's just certain of the guys that I'm like, you know, is not my style. You know, too much. So you know.
Yeah.
But Nick, I do feel like I could maybe somehow like be very compatible in a way for friendship, you know, to
yes.
And I would like to pick his brain because he's a very intriguing human being.
Yes, he really is. And so are you. And the truth is, I know you both. I'm fortunate enough to know you both. And you two will, like I said, you're much more similar than people realize. And he will appreciate it. And I will send him your number, and I will tell him that. George, thank you so much, man. Like I said, you're always just so gracious with me, and you've always been such a great friend. And I'm really, really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I always enjoy talking to you. You're one of the guys that in this industry that it's not only about sport, and it's very philosophical, and all the time we see each other, we talk about it, and I like the way you see life, the way you look at the world. I really enjoy talking to you. Very smart guy. And then also one thing I can say is the way you describe the action, you know, in fighting, and your metaphor that you use. For me, I think it's great, because there's more people that can understand, you know. And I think it's fantastic. You're doing an amazing job, and you're one of the best at it. And I think you're maybe the best at it in terms of describing and making metaphor in order to make people understand what really is going on during the action of a combat sport. It's pretty cool to watch. You know, I learn a lot watching you doing it, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, brother. Have a wonderful day. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Robin. Good to see you, man. Cheers.
Mayhem Miller, thank you for hanging with me, and man, I'm super grateful. Thank you for hanging.
Hey, no stress, bud. Nice to be on. I don't know what I'm on. Listen, I signed up to this on the strength of a man named Rich Chu, so I don't know what the hell I got myself into, but you know, by all intents and purposes, it sounds pretty dangerous and scary.
Yes, well, it is dangerous and scary
for the average mortal man, but for me,
I was just going to say I shouldn't have jumped in there. What is scary for a regular person can't be that scary for Jason Mayhem Miller.
I mean, look, but they bred fear out of the Millers for many generations, and then try to breed it back into us with prison time.
Right, right. You mentioned Rich Joe. He is our mutual friend, and he was just saying how good you're doing and how happy you are and how good life is. Is that accurate?
I mean, look, the guy is a well-known truth teller, so obviously he's telling the truth.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear it. So this is called Deeper into the Cage or Cage Talk. We talk about Dark Side of the Cage, the episodes. Season 1, Nick
Buddy,
Diaz.
I haven't watched any of them, and now I'm afraid
Perfect.
he's gonna stick me on there without my express written consent.
Well, I will get your written consent, but I wouldn't do that to you, but you don't know me very well, but you know Rich, and Rich wouldn't do that to you. Two things. One, I want to talk to you about Nick Diaz, because there is season 1, we have an episode of Nick Diaz. But before I do, season 2, we really want to do an episode on Jason Miller. Such an episode only works if Jason Miller's doing well now and can walk us through his life, the ups and downs, the challenges, overcoming. You appear to be doing well, and I think such an episode would be interesting to people. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea, only on the fact that YouTube was inundated for years of what happened to Mayhem Miller. Mayhem Miller. And it was just nightmare after nightmare. Even when I I didn't see those until I started doing real good, where everything was going right for me. And then I'm like, oh shit, damn, this is why people were looking at me crazy in the grocery store. Oh, this is why everyone moved out of the way at Starbucks, because the propaganda out there made you think that I was an absolute psychopath, which, might not be that far from the truth.
Just a little bit.
I mean, look, but here's the thing, right? That I learned in my years of being on the dark side is that if you go down that path, you have to be dark. There's no other direction to be. You can't. Once you start walking on that dark path, you got to be the meanest and craziest guy in the room. And if you're not, then, you lose your spot. So it's an unfortunate byproduct of American society that if you, live outside of the law, that you have to be the most vicious, animalistic, crazy person. And then when you jump back on the other side, you really got to be as wholesome as you can, because, the alternative is a really, really bad place.
That's a hard swing, though, from full psychopath to as wholesome as possible. But you seem to be doing it. You got a regular gig on Adam Carolla, being wholesome as all hell, right?
I know. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. For me, it's not that extreme. For me, there's a reason they call me Mayhem. It's not, just about the fighting. It's because I have a tendency to go to extreme, so now that I chose to be Mr. Nice Guy, good guy, then I'm extreme Hello Kitty. You know what I mean? Everything is beautiful for all the damn time. And it's a new era. And I just had to let go of this era, the back once things got dark, I fully embodied it. And instead of living like that, where I was in a constant state of torture, I just decided to rise up out of it. It wasn't easy. I had friends and people that were there to help, and a network. You start to develop a network. The big thing is that I had snowballed early in my, right after fighting was over. I kind of snowballed in all this negative things, where things kept rolling down bad. And I didn't understand, because I never worked my way up. I didn't understand that you could snowball positive. And so that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing the fact that I've been doing, that hippy dippy thing. You manifest what you put your energy to. But it's true. It's true. I mean, you could use different words, and probably I might spec into that for some type of YouTube creation where I go, okay, how do you snowball positive? And that's what's happening. I started putting my intentions towards positive things and, working within the law and doing things correctly, for lack of a better term. And suddenly, things keep rolling. Adam Carolla's job is helping usher in new things like that, like where, okay, everyone sees I'm sane, sober, mind was pretty clear, and like can affect positive change in the community. And then what? Here I am, keep doing it.
Some people call it the upward spiral, where you start to make one small change, which leads to a healthier body. And then you make another small change, which leads to some gratitude. Make another, and a few of these things, like a little upward spiral. And that's what you're living right now. I'm happy to hear that, man.
And also the benefit is that, okay, everyone knew me before I went dark, and they knew I was a good guy. They knew I was like very helpful and like, part of a team. I like to be positive minded, help. And then with context, you can kind of understand why I went that direction. I like kind of was on the outs, and I didn't know any other way but to commiserate with the people I was commiserating with. And look, that's just how it goes, So now I have the benefit of people remembering the old Mayhem and then bringing back this new Mayhem who's very similar to the old Mayhem.
That's great to hear, man. And it's also why I was talking to Rich and others. When you see the Nick Diaz episode, you'll be like, yeah, I want to do that next year, because these are episodes that are told best when people do come out the other side. I'm personally, and a lot of people are like this, we don't just want to see a story where people went through hard shit. It only makes sense if later something good comes of it. If you see, there can be falls and setbacks, but it's overcoming them that inspires other people, right? You actually are in the Nick Diaz episode, a guy who in the reenactment plays you. He's got a little red stripe, throws a punch that starts a brawl. Tell me about that moment at the Strike Force.
And now you're taking liberties with reality, okay? I don't know if I even threw a punch and started the brawl. I knew that I was in a brawl, that's for sure. But yeah, look, I don't know. I can't speak on this Nick Diaz episode. And as I understand it, that story is ongoing. I don't know if you guys released that thing a little bit early, because it sounds like Nick's getting good and getting all together somehow. I don't know. This is the rumor I heard. And
let me tell you, I hate to interrupt, but we sat down with Nick. We sat down with him for hours. Nobody sat down with Nick Diaz for hours in the last decade. And Nick was kind and sweet and thoughtful. And he told us his story from youth through, and yes, he has faced all kinds of challenges and setbacks in his life. But the Nick that we sat down with was doing very, very well.
Right.
He looked good. He was happy to tell the stories. Mayhem, the reason you haven't seen the episode is when we're chatting, it's not out yet. But it's a beautiful episode. It's a beautiful story of a guy's life that isn't a straight line. It's not easy. But Nick is as you probably know, is a very inspiring guy in his own right.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Yeah. I mean, and I'm really glad that, he got a lot of press coverage because he was doing a lot of things out of character. And I have a lot of compassion for that. I can see how it's pretty easy to slip into that. You get the wrong people around you, and and I'm not just blaming them, but you get the thing about being a professional fighter is that, you have to tap into some fearlessness. Like, you just don't get scared of anything. And that's a double-edged sword. Yeah, you can do some heroic things, but you can also do some really terrible things to yourself, because you're not scared of the consequences. You're not thinking about that, or you're just fearless in general. It happens. There's a reason why soldiers and that's why I work with emerging veterans and players, which is this type of charity to help guys out. Because there's a reason that soldiers and professional athletes both have this stereotype of going off the rails afterwards. There's a strange thing that happens to you where your adrenaline doesn't get up unless you're doing something really crazy. And it's easy to fall into that trap, and it's hard to tamp yourself down to be wholesome.
Yeah. I did see recently somewhere, somebody quoted you saying that you'd love to chat with Nick and reach out if he needs anything. Did you say that? Did you see when he appeared to have some challenges?
Interviews talking about that, because I was kind of frustrated and mad because, Diaz had a fantastic career, and I feel like he definitely has a network of people that are around. But oftentimes, when you fall off in that dark spot, everyone gets scared. And who's going to tell Diaz, hey, man, you need help? No one. It's really hard, Nick, because I had the same problem. I had a lot of friends, but anybody trying to get through to me, it couldn't be heard, And I don't know. Yeah, I definitely reached out during that time where I heard all that because, like I said, I feel very confident that I'm on the other side of all that darkness.
That's good.
And, a big part of keeping that mentality is to reach out and to help others.
Give it away.
We had our rivalries back in the day, but for me, it was important to let them know that people feel there's a lot of fans out there, and that people feel for them.
I don't want to take too much of your time because I'm going to take a lot of it in season 2 when we come visit you and tell your story. But I misspoke earlier. You're right. You were the guy reenacting you with a thing is standing there. There's Jake Shields, and Nick Diaz takes a punch at you. Can you walk us through your memory of all that?
There's a picture out there of them, all of them punching at me, and me with the defensive, whoa, I knew it was. I didn't realize it was coming. Hey, my manager told me, get up in the cage, ask for your rematch. And man, I guess the security wasn't on the same page.
But Mayhem, let's just be real. If you think about it in retrospect, you're like, oh yeah, of course if I do that in front of all those
but
again,
bud, I'm fearless. Of course I'm gonna go up in there and do that. Yeah. I wasn't. Listen, the fight business, you got to be insane a little bit. You have to be to get to the high levels of fighting. You have to have almost a delusional. You can fight the entire globe and you'll be fine. So, and that's what I expect out of my fighters. I coach guys now, and I just want them walking into the cage or ring or whatever. I want them thinking they could slap Zeus out of his sandals. That's what I expect.
I love it. Mayhem, this is the first time I got to meet you, and I'm really grateful that I have. And I'm a big fan of your work and of you as a dude. And I'm happy to hear that you're coaching. You've got a cool gig on a fun podcast. You're waking up with gratitude every day. And man, I want to tell you a story next year. It hasn't been approved to the network yet, but I'm going to push him hard because you, from rise, challenges, setbacks, and now living a great life, the next chapter of your life could be the greatest chapter. Those are the stories that are the best to tell.
I'm counting on it, bud. God bless you, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we're going to dig into the rise of pride. This is Cage Talk. Thank you so much. Until next time, enjoy the hostilities, my friends.
Welcome to the Nick Diaz Show and your host, Nick Diaz.
Nobody can fight like Nick. Daring you to come at him.
The most durable, mentally tough.
I'm sitting on a gurney in the hospital, turn around and
Pow!
He did it his way, whether people liked it or not.
Nick smoked marijuana the week of the fight.
They cut me.
5 years suspension.
They took his livelihood away.
It was rough. But I'll tell you right now, I'm only going out one way.
Dark Side of the Cage. New episode Wednesday at 10 on Vice.